All right, Jingle All the Way. Arnold Schwarzenegger partners up with Sinbad to do a Christmas movie. And is it all that good? Well, we'll see. So, yeah. We have Jingle All the Way, which is Arnold Schwarzenegger during his 90s stuff. I think this was right before he did Batman and Robin, which, we don't need to talk about that. But he had Kindergarten Cop under his belt. He had twins. I can't remember if he had Junior under his belt. So he was kind of flip flopping between doing action films, but also doing those comedy films because he wanted to break out from just being known as an action star. So then luckily he got something like Kindergarten Cop and twins. So he got to work with Ivan Reitman, who has been known for doing comedy. So that got him out. So then when this was approached, it was okay, it's in that same wheelhouse as, all right, let's do these kind of comedy films. This time it's a one for Christmas season. So that's what we got here. So Schwarzenegger plays a dad who his son, who is a couple years before Anakin Skywalker, Jake Lloyd, and he will not shut the hell up about Turbo Man. It reminds me very much of something like Child's Play, where, he wouldn't shut up about the good guy dolls. He just would not stop talking. He wants the toys. He has the memorabilia. He has the cereal. He watches the cartoon with the giant, mascot. That was just creepy as hell. It's the same thing here. So he will not shut up. And his marriage is kind of not going the best, even though he's doing the best that he can. It's a lot of that. You're working all the time, and it's well, you want to stay in this house, right? Okay. But anyway, so he decides, okay, you know what? I'm going to get him a Turbo Man action figure for Christmas. But every store gets sold out of it because it's the hot new thing. And that's where he comes to meet Sinbad, who is also looking for it. And he's got to try and go all over town to try and get one before they all sell out completely. And then apparently he is a bad dad. Yeah. So one thing I think this actually does interesting is that it shows you just how much Black Friday or Christmas consumerism just is. I think this was at its peak. So they were definitely trying to get modern with that. And it was all right, this works. Now, and I do think that, Schwarzenegger does try, because you actually do care about him, because, he's just being just, his family is just going yeah, you're not a good dad. And it's what are you talking about? He's, working his ass off. He's making a great living. He's, he's busting his ass. And yeah, it sucks, but okay. But then you have Phil Hartman, who is their neighbor. And he's just he's basically the Quagmire of this, where he's just any woman he sees, he just wants to have sex with. And then that's how he gets closer to Schwarzenegger's wife and kid, is because he's just oh no, I'm playing the waiting game on this one. I'm going to make you look bad. And I was what? Anyone want to file a police report with this guy? Nobody. So then you start getting frustrated with all the other characters, because it's this is in your face, blatantly obvious. And you're not doing anything to kind of prevent this. It's no, this needs to stop. So you start getting a little frustrated. And also some of the comedy too is kind of okay, it's a lot of that, slapstick type stuff, or, of course his Schwarzenegger's, quote in here, put the cookie down. But, when it comes to Sinbad, who I think is funny, a lot of his humor in this, it's the same, thing I don't like when it comes to like Will Ferrell type stuff. And that's just him screaming his ass off. And like there's the scene where we meet where Schwarzenegger meets him, and they're in front of the store and it's about to open, and Sinbad just starts just going off, and then he starts just acting all crazy, and then he starts screaming and yelling to the point where you can kind of see on everybody's face like, dude, just shut up. Please shut up. And to the point where he even like I believe he, if I remember correctly, he actually grabs some woman and just starts kind of like strangling, just for no reason. And it's like, what are you doing? Like, what the hell are you doing? So, but a lot of his humor is that kind of like screaming and shouting, and it's just a lot of, I get furious with with most of these characters, and that's why I'm just like, oh God, here we go. Like, I don't care. So, I think at the end of the day, is this good? Not really. Is this bad? It's very in between. I think if you look at this like, okay, I'm watching it, I know it's not good, but there's a certain entertainment and charm to it that I think people like, then there you go. But there are genuinely people that like this movie, like it. And I was like, yeah, I'm not on board on that. Because I go like, okay, what about this part? And they're like, oh no, I like that. It's like, okay, but you see it's bad, right? No, well, I can't help you there. Like, I can't. So, there is one thing though, and I kind of thought it was funny at first, but then it just got creepy. And that was a scene where Schwarzenegger's in bed, and he's kind of laughing, and then he all of a sudden like looks straight at the camera and like all like bulgy eyed, and on the surface you're like, what the hell? Like, okay, that was an interesting like shift kind of thing. And when you see the movie, it makes sense, but you just take that and you just like change it up, and it can look just horrifying. And I've seen it, like, I've seen people like post it on Twitter that like it looks like an analog horror thing. So, get your kicks from that. So I think, at the end of the day, was this good? No. Is this bad? No. But, at the end of the day, is it entertaining? Yeah, I would say so. If you go into that right frame of mind where it's just like, I know I'm watching this. I know it's not good. I know it's, I know there's so many flaws to it, but you know what? It's that certain entertainment value to it. And I think you could be good. Schwarzenegger, he's definitely the one carrying this movie, and I feel like he's the only one you actually give a shit about, when everybody else just kind of sucks or they either suck, they're idiots, or they're brats. That's pretty much it. So you kind of feel bad for him. So, I know some people that try to watch this every year, and I'm like, if I'm kind of in like a little brain rot mood, then sure, I'd watch this one again. But it's not something where I'm like, I would sit down every year, or maybe even every 2-3 years, I'd watch this again. It's in that right frame of mind. So, normally, I give this maybe like a fine, but I would say like an average, because, there is a certain charm to it that I will say is there. And like I said, it's not a very good charm. It's not polished, but it's a charm, and it's there. And, Schwarzenegger commits. Like, he's just like, I know this is ridiculous, but let's just do it and have some fun. So that's why I would say, like, it's an average. It's a fun brain rot average. And then we got, a sequel to it, and with, I think, Larry the Cable Guy, that nobody asked for. And I was like, yeah, let's have a sequel to a Schwarzenegger movie and have the guy who voices Mater to be in it. It's like, no one asked for that. So maybe we get a third one, maybe Sinbad will come back for that. I don't see him really doing anything these days. So, completes the trilogy.